Hello there. Welcome to Whispers.exe, where the silence watches back. The following story is a work of fiction created for atmospheric and entertainment purposes. With that being said, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the dark settle in. It begins like most things do, quiet, unnoticed, and far too late to stop. La Sonrisa. The desert town of Piedra Blanca counts its days by dust and weary last and weary laughter. It begins like most things do, and far too late to stop. And get a stand by for taste. Laughs drift up from the Mercado stalls, bounce off sun-bleached adobe, then vanish across the river border like startled birds. Most evenings the humor feels forced, a brittle rattle of throats too dry to truly rejoice. Yet children still manage bright giggles that float above the heat haze. Adults say laughter is medicine. Children say laughter is bait. I arrived in late August when cicadas stitched the dusk with electric seams and the smell of roasted chiles clung to every doorway. I was there to inventory the historical archives, boxes of brittle ledgers no one had touched since the customs house closed 20 years prior. A quiet contract, perfect for a man looking to disappear for a while. On my first night, the power blinked out. The whole grid sighed, lights fluttered, and the town exhaled a single wavering chuckle, one collective reflex of nerves. Then darkness. Someone in the street below broke the silence with a joke I couldn't quite catch, and scattered laughter rippled under my window. That laugh found me alone in the archive loft, pen held above paper. I laughed back, soft, surprised at my own voice, and the sound felt too loud in the hot stillness. Somewhere outside, a child hissed, "Shh, kill her." Another answered, "Only if he laughs twice." Both fell silent. I felt an odd chill, as though the night had leaned in to listen. Candles were scarce, so I sat with moonlight. Pages softened into gray rugs of unreadable ink, and the loft's single window fogged with my breath. Against that faint blur, something shifted. A pale oval, impossibly close to the glass, almost pressed against it from the outside 3 stories up. I leaned forward. The oval brightened to the shape of a face, but no features. Just a wide smear like wet clay. Furred. Then, unmistakably, the suggestion of a grin, edges stretching, each side bending too far. Teeth bloomed in rows, small, neat, innumerable. The grin widened until the glass whispered with tension. I did not laugh. I didn't even breathe. The grin stayed, hovering as if waiting for a cue. Behind me, the stairwell creaked with running footsteps, children scattering into the night. When I looked back, the window held only moonlight. In the morning, townsfolk spoke of the outage with the weary resignation of people accustomed to minor failures. I mentioned the children outside. A shopkeeper crossed herself. "Don't mind them," she said. "They tell stories, keep themselves amused." "What stories?" I asked. She hesitated, then tapped her own cheek, pulling her mouth into a stretched smile. "La sonrisa," she whispered. "The smile." They say she stands behind steamed-over panes, bathroom mirrors, bus windows, kitchen glass gone cloudy from boiling pots, waiting for someone who has just laughed. She asks a single question in a voice so gentle it feels like your own thought. "Do you want to be happy forever?" If you answer or if you laugh again, you see her clearly and are never the same. You won't laugh anymore. Your lips will freeze in a rictus, and every sound after that will be a dry wheeze masquerading as delight. Children learn the rules early. Never chuckle at midnight. Never giggle near fogged windows. Most importantly, do not chase echoes of your own amusement into silence. I dismissed it all until the afternoon I heard classroom laughter rolling through the schoolyard like marbles on tile. Tch. I looked out a cracked pane and saw second graders doubled over with mirth pointing toward the gym's misted skylight. Their teacher clapped, coaxing calm, but I caught one phrase, "She's smiling back." The class fell instantly mute, smiles flattening into drawn lines. Not one child laughed the rest of recess. That evening, I walked the riverbank. Sunset smeared crimson over the water, and distant headlights stitched the opposite shore. I recalled a friend's joke from years ago, something absurd about border bureaucracy, and laughed aloud. The sound felt wrong, brittle. A flock of blackbirds startled and spun away, their wing beats loud as applause. Mist rose off the water, thin as gauze. Within it, a silhouette appeared, slight, feminine, head tilted. A grin, luminous. Teeth upon teeth, overlapping like fish scales. She did not move closer, The fog moved her, drifting until the grin hovered inches from my face, though no feet touched earth. Do you want to be happy forever? The question bloomed inside my skull in my mother's voice, gentle, persuasive. I felt an urge to nod. Instead, I stepped back, swallowed, forced words out. No. The grin trembled. A hiss escaped. Not anger, but disappointment so vast it felt like pity for all human sorrow. Then she was gone, unraveling with the mist. That night I could not sleep. Every creak of settling timbers became the soft scrape of teeth against glass. I realized laughter had left me, not stolen, abandoned. I could remember the mechanics of humor, the rise of a joke, but joy no longer reached my throat. Only a stiff upturn of lips, polite, hollow. Ah, days blurred. Town fiestas passed without chuckles, only muted smiles. Children played in uneasy quiet as though afraid of their own glee. A subtle malaise spread. The market's mariachi ceased mid-song. Barbers trimmed beards in silence. Even the church bells rang dampened, muffled by unseen fog. Rumors grew. Dozens had seen her now, always after laughing. A mother who told a bedtime joke to calm her son found the boy staring at their steamed bathroom mirror, grinning until his lips split. A mechanic laughed at a radio prank, then was discovered hours later seated behind a fogged windshield, smile wide, eyes blank, engine idling to nowhere. I tried to leave Piedra. Buses south were full, northbound lanes closed by a sandstorm that appeared on no forecast. Yo, like a sandstorm that appeared on no forecast. Phone lines sputtered. The internet slowed to a crawl of buffering error messages shaped like smirks. It felt as if the world beyond town had stepped back, drawing a circle I was not meant to cross. One sweltering dawn, I sought the archives for refuge in routine. Boxes stood like tombstones. Ink had bled across many pages, words blurred into shapes like crooked smiles. I noticed condensation on the loft window, though the night had been bone dry. When I wiped the pane, a face emerged on the other side. Mine. But behind my reflection, grinning over my shoulder, hovered rows of teeth suspended in air. Do you want to be happy forever? The question felt tired now, patient. I turned slowly. She stood within arm's length, not outside. Her form more distinct than before, yet details slipped away as soon as I looked. Hair long, maybe, or was that trailing mist? Eyes? I could not find them. Only the mouth remained certain, blooming like a deadly flower. I spoke, voice cracking. What happens if I say yes? Her grin softened, folding over itself. Not a smile now, but a wound closing. A breath passed through the loft, smelling of wet stone and sugar. Then I realized she hated the question. She wanted my answer to be unconscious, a surrender contained in reflexive laughter. So I asked again, louder. What happens if I say yes? The loft lights flickered, though no bulb remained intact. Shadows sharpened, crowding closer. Her teeth clicked shut, the sound like scissor blades. Fog surged from her mouth, curling around me. Inside that vapor, I heard every laugh I'd uttered in life, replayed fast, then slow, stretched until each became pain. She showed me the ugliness of humor, the mockery beneath jest, the loneliness inside applause. I did not laugh, I did not speak. I simply listened until the fog thinned. When clarity returned, she was gone. Outside, dawn painted the town in weak pastels. People stood in doorways, smiling without mirth, eyes damp. They met my gaze and nodded, as though sharing a secret we wished were untrue. The school bell rang, a flat metallic clank. No children ran. They walked slowly, lips stretched thin. At noon, the sun failed. It remained in the sky, but its light turned ashen, and a damp chill settled. Windows glazed over with breath that was not ours. Through every pane, silhouettes formed, countless grins overlapping, pressing inward. Each mouth whispered the question in a cacophony of voices. Parents, lovers, strangers, every cadence you trust. Do you want to be happy forever? The town answered in a single exhale, not yes or no, but a collective whimper. And then, as if guided by unseen hands, we began to smile. Real smiles, wide, aching. Laughter followed, but it was wrong. Soundless convulsions, shoulders shaking without noise. We laughed until our throats burned, until tears cut paths through dust on our cheeks. Behind the fogged glass, every grin brightened, satisfied. I felt something snap, not in me, but around me, a membrane of resistance tearing. The grins slid through the panes like oil through cloth, spilling into streets, hovering above cracked asphalt. They drifted toward anyone still capable of sound, sealing mouths with gentle touch. One by one, laughter died, leaving only brittle smiles. In the hush that followed, I heard wind again and distant river water and the small hum of desert insects. No human voice disturbed that fragile quiet. La Sonrisa had given us what we thought we wanted, the end of sadness, the stillness after the joke. Night returned. The power grid flickered alive, lights glowing soft gold over motionless faces. I walked to the mercado. The end of sadness, after. Vendors stood behind stalls of untouched fruit, grinning into space. I opened my mouth, forced air past vocal cords unused for hours, maybe days. A sound emerged, low, raw, neither laugh nor cry. It was a question without words, a plea for imperfection, for messy living noise. No one answered. I raised a mirror from a trinket stand. My own reflection stared back, lips parted in a cautious line. I had not yet joined the grinning horde. A choice remained. Do you want to be happy forever? The mirror fogged as though something inside it breathed. I shattered the glass. Fragments spun into dust, each shard catching a sliver of my face, each showing a different expression: fear, sorrow, awe, hope. Some fragments smiled, others wept. All were me. That night, I wrote this account in the archive loft, candle guttering. I write because words still carry weight, because silence is not peace, and because laughter, true, flawed, ridiculous laughter, is worth any sorrow it invites. If you read this, know that Piedra Blanca stands quiet now. Fog clings permanent to its windows, and behind every pane, a pale grin waits. Should you ever cross the river and hear a child laugh, do not answer with laughter of your own. Hold that joy in silence. Let it warm your chest, but keep your mouth closed. Because somewhere nearby, a gentle voice will ask if you want happiness without end. And if you say yes, you will never laugh again, only smile. For now, I wait for sunrise that may never come, listening for one imperfect chuckle to break the spell. If I hear it, I will join in, loud and unafraid, even if she stands at my shoulder counting my teeth. Because joy is a living thing, and living things must breathe, must tremble, must risk pain to exist at all. The candle dies, the window fogs. I feel her behind me, patient, eternal. My lips twitch, not into a grin, but into words. They are not an answer, they are a promise. I will laugh again. The walls of the archive seem thinner now. I can hear things through them. Breaths that are not mine, soft scrapes like fingernails tracing mortar, the delicate clink of teeth tapping glass. The night is full of smiling things. And yet I write. I write because memory is the only rebellion left. She can take my laughter, my voice, my town, but not the truth I leave behind. Earlier, just before the candle died, I opened one of the older ledgers, not the tax records or import sheets I was assigned to catalog. Something older, wrapped in cloth, so worn it disintegrated in my hands. Inside was not paper, but bark, charred at the edges. Pictographs inked in something brown-black, crude shapes of faces, all grinning. Every page showed the same mouth, only larger, more detailed. Until the last page. It bore no smile, just a pair of eyes, wide and glassy, and below them a single word in Spanish scrawled in a child's hand. Fingy. I pretended. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know how it found its way into the archive, but I understood what they meant. Smiles became survival here, a way to blend in, to delay her. You smile, you nod, you mimic the others, and maybe if you're quiet enough, if you fake it long enough, she will pass you by. But I'm done pretending. I spent the day wandering the empty streets of Piedra Blanca. The sun hangs in the sky, but it no longer moves. It stays at that same weary angle, a sepia glow that never warms, as if time stalled in the instant just before dusk. The townspeople drift through their routines like dolls wound too tightly. Children sit at school desks drawing rows of teeth. Mothers sweep dust from doorways that lead nowhere. Elders stare at TVs that play nothing but static, their lips curved into dry grins. They all smile. None of them blink. At the plaza, I watched a vendor unpack watermelons one by one and carefully carve a grin into each rind. No one spoke. No one stopped him. When he looked up, he tilted his head as if waiting for me to laugh. I didn't. I nodded and kept walking. I found Father Luis in the church. The sanctuary was dark. Candles melted to puddles. He stood behind the altar with a cracked mirror in his hands, turning it slowly, catching pieces of himself in the shards. He smiled like the rest. But when he saw me, something flickered behind his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or regret. I approached him carefully. Father, I whispered, are you still in there? He didn't speak, but he held the mirror out to me. On the glass, the words were etched with what looked like fingernail scratches. Smiling is not the same as joy. I took the mirror. When I looked into it, I saw her again, not behind me, inside me, not fully, not yet, just the echo of her, woven through my reflection, stitched into the corners of my mouth. A suggestion, a draft. It made sense. She doesn't consume all at once. She waits, she erodes, takes the laughter first, then the voice. Then, only when you've forgotten how you ever felt joy without her, she seals the smile, like wax over a letter never meant to be opened. I'm writing in the school now. The archive is too cold, and the windows there are too fogged to see through. This classroom, room 6A, still holds the faint smell of crayons and heat warped plastic. There are no students here today. Just rows of tiny chairs facing a whiteboard on which someone has scrawled over and over, yes, yes, yes. Some of the markers have dried. Some are stained with something darker than ink. Outside the window, the fog has thickened. Yes. I can see her sometimes moving between trees, trailing her long grin like a train of lace. She's not hiding anymore. She knows we remember. She knows we've stopped resisting. But I haven't, and I haven't, and I won't. I've begun to speak again, softly to myself, testing syllables like bones cracked to see what's still whole. And sometimes when the air is still, I think I hear another voice answering, a child's voice, no older than 10, barely a whisper. She says, "Don't smile too fast." Um, I've begun leaving small traps for her, not physical ones. She can't be caught in rope or cage. But I've started writing jokes, not funny ones, bad ones, groaners, terrible puns. I read them aloud in the plaza, just under my breath. Um, Little acts of rebellion. They don't make me laugh. But once, I swear it, I saw someone else twitch. An old man at a fruit stand, his mouth bent the wrong way, just for a second, like a frown, like something real. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. Some mornings I wake up already grinning. I have to scrape it away with my palms, force it flat. It returns when I sleep. She visits me in dreams where everyone smiles and no one speaks, and I am the only thing not beautiful. But still I walk, still I speak, still I wait for one voice to rise, for one true laugh, for one child to say no. And then today, something happened. As I walked past the old laundromat, I saw steam rising from the broken window. The machines haven't run in years. But inside, a child, a real child, eyes wide, mouth still, not smiling. He stood beside a washer fogged with heat and pointed at it without turning his head. "She's in there," he whispered. Then he looked up at me and he said something else. I didn't laugh, and then he vanished. Not dissolved, not erased, just gone, like a scene ending too fast, like a breath held too long. But I believe him. I believe he was real. And that belief is enough. Enough to make me write this tonight. Enough to make me stay awake even as the fog presses against the window, tracing lips on the glass with its breath. She is outside again, watching, waiting. Her grin spans the width of the window now. I do not move. I do not answer. I let her wait. And as she watches, I start to hum, a tune I once heard at a festival in another life, full of wrong notes and broken rhythm. A melody born of joy and error and breath. And for the first time in days, I feel something shift inside me. Not fear, not defiance, just memory of a time before the grins, before the stillness, when laughter came from the belly, not the mouth, when joy was loud and alive and full of teeth that did not gleam in fog. I keep humming. She doesn't move. She waits, but I know now. She cannot hum. She cannot sing. She can only grin. That is her limit. That is her flaw. And it is mine to exploit. I will teach the town this song, one house at a time, one voice at a time, even if I must carry it alone at first, low and off key and trembling, because humming is hope, and hope is louder than silence, even here, even now. The fog recedes slightly, not gone, but thinner, almost uncertain. She tilts her head, her grin quivers. I smile, not like hers. Mine is lopsided, cracked, mortal. I smile the way people do when they stub a toe and see stars. I smile like someone remembering a joke they're not supposed to laugh at. I smile with my whole face, and I hum, and I hum, and I hum. The glass begins to clear. A thin bead of water slides from the edge of her grin as if the fog itself is sweating. She presses closer, expecting me to falter, yet the tune coils in my chest like warm smoke and drifts out between my teeth. I do not know all the notes. That is the point. It is imperfect, alive, unrepentant. A distant door opens. Footsteps shuffle along the corridor outside room 6A, slow, unsure, the gait of someone waking from a long, uneasy sleep. The handle turns. In steps Father Luis, mirror still in hand. His grin is cracked now, fissured at the corners, as though the glass has reflected a fracture back onto him. He is humming. Off key, barely audible, but unmistakably the same crooked melody. Our eyes meet. Neither of us stops. The two notes overlap, wobble, then merge into something almost tuneful. At the end of the hall, another voice joins. A woman from the post office, shoulders hunched, apron dusted with powdered envelopes never delivered. Then a third, old Don Mateo, whose watermelon faces sag in the heat outside his stall. Their hums tremble, catch, find footing. The fog outside ripples like cloth snapped in wind. Her grin blurs, smears, retreats. Windows up and down the street rattle as townsfolk step onto balconies, doorways, rooftops, clutching cracked mirrors, tin toys, broken radios, anything that can carry a note. They hum. The song grows ragged wings. Children wander from classrooms, pencils still clutched like crude flutes, whistling half-remembered playground tunes that weave around our imperfect chorus. No one laughs yet. Laughter is a horizon too far, but mouths soften, lips unstitch. La Sonrisa circles the schoolyard in widening arcs, her smile thinning to a wire stretched too tight. She dips into shadows, surfaces by the dry fountain, glides through sunlight that fails to warm her waxen skin. Everywhere she appears, the song wavers, but it does not break. She cannot hum. She cannot shape breath into melody without breaking the seal of her grin. She opens her mouth wider, rows of teeth flowering outward until gums fissure like overripe fruit. Yet only silence falls from that cavern. A glass pane in the cafeteria shatters from the strain of her voiceless scream. Shards ring out across tile like brittle bells, and in their chiming I hear the first new sound from a human throat in days. A laugh. It bursts out of a girl no older than 7, high, startled, unplanned. She slaps both hands over her mouth, eyes huge, as though expecting punishment. Instead, the humming swells around her, beckoning. She drops her hands. The laugh repeats. Shorter, braver. More children join, giggles stitched together with uneven breathing. The melody fractures, reforms, builds itself on laughter's scaffolding. Our song becomes a living thing, half hum, half ragged chuckle, stitched with uncertainty and pain, but undeniably alive. La Sonrisa falters. Her feet, if she has feet, skid across dust without stirring it. She gazes at the laughing child, and for an instant her smile twists not wider but narrower, as if testing some forgotten shape. A crack splits the ivory curtain of her teeth. From that fissure leaks a single quivering note. Flat, colorless, wrong. She tries again, forcing tone through a throat that has never bent to melody. The sound rasps like wind through broken reeds and dies before reaching air. She recoils. Fog peels off walls, rushes to her like fleeing birds, wraps her form. The grin dims, receding into swirling white. I step outside. Father Luis follows, mirror held aloft, its fractured surface scattering light like shards of daybreak. On every fragment, I see La Sonrisa multiplying, each copy more translucent than the last. He tilts the mirror, directing those reflections back toward her. Where the glass edges carve through fog, vapor hisses away, leaving gaps that refuse to close. The priest whispers one word, remember, and presses the mirror into my hands. He turns, walks back toward the church, humming louder than before. I feel the mirror tremble. Cracks race outward, threatening to collapse the vision entirely. And yet each crack sends another beam of diffused light into the swirling cloud that hides her. I raise my voice. Not a hum now. Words, coarse and dry, tumble out. The joke from the border bureaucracy, the pun about melons, a half-forgotten riddle whose answer never mattered. They are terrible jokes. No one should laugh at them, but someone does. The mechanic who idled into nothingness days ago leans against a rusted pickup, shoulders shaking. A sputter of laughter escapes him. Clotted, unfamiliar, precious. It catches like tinder. Laughter spreads. Some of it joyous, some hysterical, some broken beyond repair, but all human. It fills the plaza, climbs the walls, stirs the desert air. The fog thins until only wisps cling to gutters like cobweb. There she stands, exposed. No longer a drifting vision, she is smaller than I imagined, hunched, limbs spindly as ocotillo branches. The grin remains too wide, but strained now, brittle. Her eyes, I can finally see them, our blister black pearls reflecting every laughing face with furious clarity. She steps toward the giggling children. Fog spools behind her heels, trying to regrow. But laughter chases it away like wind. She stumbles. Teeth rattle in her jaw. A molar drops to the pavement and shatters like porcelain. Another falls, and another. Each tooth hits earth and changes into dust, into chalk, into nothing. She clutches her mouth, but the grin has no lips to hide behind. She tries to speak, to ask her question. Do you want to be happy forever? But without her teeth, the words collapse before birth. All that escapes is a thin mule, softer than a kitten's cry. The boy who never laughed approaches her. He is calm, eyes bright. He reaches out, places a small hand on her trembling wrist. You can stop, he says. Joy is loud. Let go. His words are gentle. No malice, no triumph. Only the certainty of a child who knows monsters melt when named. La Sonrisa's grin slackens. A line appears above her chin, the hint of a lip. Her jaw trembles, closes, opens again, in wonder, not threat. A sound emerges, smaller than breath, softer than dust sliding off silk. It is not a hum, not yet. It is possibility. She looks at me. For the first time, I see her face without the mask of merriment. Ancient, exhausted, etched by centuries of stolen smiles. I do not hate her. I offer the cracked mirror. She gazes into it, sees her own reflection shattered into 1,000 unfamiliar shapes, mouths that can frown, eyes that can weep. A single tear, the color of fog before dawn, slides from her left eye. The tear hits the glass. Light blooms inside the cracks, flooding outward in quiet lightning. The mirror dissolves into powder that drifts on a breeze only she can feel. She closes her eyes. Her mouth folds inward, sealing the endless corridor of teeth with tender, quivering flesh. A thin, human-shaped smile settles, imperfect, hesitant, trembling at the edges. She exhales. Fog collapses. The sun moves. Just a degree, maybe two, but it moves, sliding toward the western hills with the weary momentum of a clock restarted. Color returns in cautious pools, a streak of cobalt sky, a shimmer of green on cactus skin. The townspeople blink as though waking from sunlight too bright to bear. Some drop to their knees, laughing and crying in the same breath. Others sit quietly, hands over hearts, feeling the beat they feared was gone. No one smiles the same way twice. La Sonrisa steps back, folds into the shade beneath the school's adobe arch. The boy watches her. She raises a hand, small, pale, finger bones like willow twigs, and places it over her heart. The boy mirrors the gesture. Neither laughs, neither hums. They simply breathe together until the rhythm of one matches the other. Then she turns, walks toward the river road, leaving footprints where fog once pooled. With every step, her form grows fainter, as though sunlight is learning to pass through her. At the river bend, she pauses, glances over her shoulder. In the silence, I hear a fragment of melody, off-key, uncertain, but hers. Then nothing. She is gone. Clouds gather at dusk, heavy with long denied rain. Thunder murmurs like muted applause. When the first fat drops strike the plaza, they patter on rooftops and shattered glass and skin, drumming an uneven rhythm that no two ears hear the same. Children hold their faces to the sky, catching rain on tongues no longer stiff with fear. Water washes chalk smiles from walls, clears dust from lungs, carries broken teeth down gutters and away into soil hungry for anything new. Father Luis rings the church bell. It clangs, off-center, clangs again, then finds a steadier tone as rust breaks free. Each peal invites another voice, songs half-remembered from weddings, lullabies, drunken ballads from cantinas long closed. No choir master, no conductor, just noise, human and flawed and free. I stand in the center of it all, soaked, trembling, mouth open, not in laughter, not in grief, but in sound itself. A sound larger than me, carried on wind, echoed in walls, answered by thunder. For a heartbeat, I wonder if she still listens from the far bank of the river. If she smiles, not the old smile, but one she chose. I hope so. Night falls. Stars ignite like pinholes pricked through velvet, each one blinking with the tentative joy of a newborn laugh. The rain eases to a mist. Somewhere a harmonica starts, crooked notes wandering up an alley until they find a partner in a rusted guitar. Fires bloom in barrels. Someone roasts corn. Someone bottles the first clean water in memory and passes it to strangers. None of it is perfect. None of it is ever meant to be. Yet every imperfection is ours again. I return to the archive one last time. Boxes lie open, pages drying on lines strung between rafters. I find the bark ledger where Fingi is written. I add another word beneath, ink bleeding through rough fibers. Kante, I sang. I leave the ledger on the window ledge where morning will find it. Dawn creeps over the desert, pale gold brushing the tops of mesquite. Roosters crow in confused chorus. They too forgot time. I walk the main road toward the river. The boy walks beside me, humming off key, a tune only half there. Halfway across the bridge, he stops, leans over the rail, listens to water rush below. He asks if I think she's still out there. I answer honestly, I don't know. He shrugs, kicks a pebble into the current. Maybe, he says, she just needed someone else to start the song. We watch the pebble vanish. Sunlight paints ripples in colors too many to name. A laugh rises in my throat, soft, surprised, utterly mine. It slips free before I can stop it, echoes under the bridge, mixes with rushing water, rushes on. The boy grins. Not the old way. Teeth crooked, one missing, lips chapped. Perfect. He laughs too. Rain-sweet air carries our voices downstream, where perhaps she waits and listens and begins again. Quieter, learning. Learning that happiness isn't a closing of mouths, but an opening of them, uneven and uncertain, letting every cracked note fly. Behind us, Piedra Blanca wakes. The town's first true morning song rises. Birds, bells, kettle whistles, tired engines, coughing back to life, mismatched voices greeting a day that might hold storms or mercies or both. I turn from the river, breathe deep, and walk home. With every step, the laugh inside me grows, not louder but deeper, rooted. It will break again. Someday sorrow will split it, fear will shake it, silence will test it. That is living. But when it breaks, I will mend it with humming and hoarse jokes and the memory of fog retreating, because I remember now. Joy is loud, and even the darkest silence watches back, only until we teach it how to sing. Morning light lengthens, filling the road ahead with blonde dust that drifts from every step. The boy and I part at the fork, where the river path meets the highway. He heads home, humming, pockets full of bright stones. I keep walking east toward the hills, toward the old telegraph line that once linked Piedra Blanca to towns I have only heard in freight car whispers. For a time, the desert is kind, windless, warm, an expanse of brittle grass, shimmering like shy applause. Yet at the edge of sight, heat ripples form curious shapes, arches of teeth, half faces nested in mirage. They unravel when I blink, but I feel their intent, as though distance itself is remembering how to smile. I travel on foot 3 days. On the second evening, I arrive at Rancho Olvido, a scatter of adobe walls half sunk in sand. No lights, no voices, but the scent of mesquite smoke lingers, freshly ghosted. Inside the courtyard, I find a circle of chairs facing inward, every seat empty, every chair back carved with the same deep curve of a grin. A coiled strip of cloth lies on the ground. I unfold it, a blindfold, damp where it once touched eyes. Faint notes of humming cling to the fibers, tiny vibrations I can feel in my fingertips like the afterring of a distant bell. Whatever happened here ended quickly. Night brings coyotes. Their yips shatter the hush, echoing off ruined stone. I wait, listening for any response from the rows of blank windows. None comes, but when the coyotes fall silent, I hear a flute somewhere beyond the walls, a single shaky note repeating the lullaby Father Luis once hummed over funerals. I do not follow it. I am learning that every sound in this new world is a doorway, and not all doors open outward. At dawn, I leave Rancho Olvido. A mile east, the highway appears, cracked asphalt swallowed by drifting sand. Sunlight lies upon it like a blade cooled in water. I find the first truck an hour later, idling, empty, radio hissing static that hiccups into laughter every seventh beat. Keys still sway in the ignition. No driver. On the passenger seat rests a postcard of Piedra Blanca dated 2 days after the fog retreated. Someone tried to leave after us. They didn't get far. I kill the engine, pocket the keys, and keep walking. Mirrors become my compass. I stop at abandoned gas stations, polished hubcaps, shards of windshield, checking each reflection for the twitch of a familiar grin. Sometimes I see nothing. Sometimes I see the outline of her mouth hovering behind my shoulder, teeth like chalk strokes on black. She never moves, but she never fades. She is lighter now, a watermark, but still woven to me by breath and memory. On the fourth night, I reach Estrella Junction, a truck stop town that once thrived on highway laughter and late night jukeboxes. From the ridge, I see neon flickering above the diner, stuttering between two words: eat and teeth, eat and teeth. My throat tightens. Yet as I draw closer, I hear genuine voices, low, cautious, human. They spill through a half open door carried on the aroma of boiling coffee and stale fry grease. Inside, a dozen travelers huddle at corner tables, faces gaunt, clothes road worn, but eyes alert. No one smiles, no one dares. Instead, they nod at one another between sips, as though any wider expression might fracture the fragile safety of the room. A dusty jukebox leans against the wall, unplugged. Someone has painted a thick black X across the speaker grill. I sit. A waitress with shaking hands brings water in a chipped glass. When she sees the postcard, her expression stiffens. You came from Piedra Blanca? I nod. Are you free of it? I swallow, uncertain how to answer. I turn the glass in my fingers, watching candlelight shiver through the rim. I'm learning to be loud, I say at last. She studies me, then points to a bulletin board nailed above the payphone. Paper scraps cover it, warnings, coordinates, sketches of a toothy silhouette with arrows through the mouth. A crude map of border towns forms a crescent around Piedra Blanca, each X marking disappearances, each circle marking pockets of survivors who hum in the dark and dare not laugh. They call it the quiet belt. It is widening. A man wearing a longshoreman's coat sits beside me. He smells of diesel and river mud. They say it started with one child's joke generations ago, he mutters. They say laughter called her forth like blood calls sharks. Now every laugh is an invitation. I tell him about the hum, about cracked mirrors, about a smile slowly learning to close. He listens, folding a napkin into smaller and smaller squares. When I finish, he unfolds the napkin once, only once, and slides it to me. Inside, the smallest square bears a note in pencil. Noise is freedom. Rhythm is chain. I leave the diner before dawn, pockets full of notes from travelers, songs sung off beat, riddles answered backward, drum patterns broken on purpose. Weapons, they hope. Outside, clouds gather, bruised purple, heavy with desert rain. Thunder mumbles like an old dog dreaming. I inhale the electric tang, wonder if she tastes it too, because I know she is still near. I feel her when silence lingers too long, when my heart hesitates between beats. Her grin is a shadow, but she is not gone. Perhaps she never will be. Mid-morning, I find a caravan stalled at the junction's edge. Families, workers, children, a priest in denim, engines knocked silent, radios dead. They sit on bumpers, eyes trained on the horizon where a wall of white mist creeps across the flat, swallowing tumbleweed in slow gulps. They plan to wait it out. One woman cradles a newborn swaddled in blankets stitched with cartoon clouds. The baby coos, then breaks into a bubbling giggle. The sound cuts the air like a bell. Every adult flinches. Fog at the horizon stirs, quickens. I step forward, palms raised, and begin to hum. The crooked festival tune, stretched in new directions of syncopated where instinct begs for steadiness. The adults join, trembling at first, then firmer. A father taps a wrench against his hubcap, deliberately missing a beat. A mechanic snaps fingers off time. A girl with headphones but no device claps softly, each clap longer than the last. Sound tangles, trips, finds new footing. The baby giggles again, this time threading into the broken rhythm like silver wire through burlap. Giggles drift into tiny warbles, almost singing. The mother blinks tears but keeps humming. Fog hesitates, curls back a few yards as if reconsidering. But it will return. Fog always returns. I move among the caravan, handing out the scraps I gathered in the diner, syllables to chant, jokes to tell wrong, lullabies sung in reverse. They memorize what they can, scribble the rest on glove boxes, dashboards, the backs of photographs. One by one, engines rumble alive. Not all, but some. A convoy of noise stitched with error rolls south, drifting from silence's edge. I watch them fade into sun haze, their dissonant chorus rattling sheet metal like hail. Alone again, I follow the telegraph line deeper into the quiet belt. At mile markers painted with peeling smiles, I leave my own marks. A bent soda tab pinned to wood, a whistle lash carved 2 beats too long. Small discordant seeds. Night finds me beside an abandoned observatory on a hill of black volcanic rock. Inside, the telescope lies split open like a silver throat. I climb the spiral stairs. In the cracked lens, I see stars glinting, and between them, a curve of white. No, dozens. Teeth in the sky draped across constellations. She is here, adrift among the heavens, looking down through shattered glass. But when I hum, the stars vibrate. Their light bends, distorting the grin into broken constellations no longer recognizable. I press my palm to the glass. For a heartbeat, I think I hear her trying to follow the tune, a breathy ghost of melody, half syllable, half wind. She cannot find the key. The grin dissolves, leaving only the familiar scatter of ordinary stars. I descend exhausted, throat raw. Below, coyotes gather again, but their howls stumble into peculiar intervals, catching the offbeat echo of the caravan, reflecting it back to hills that answer with rattling stones. The desert itself is learning dissonance. At first light, I face the road stretching north. I know towns await where smiles still rot behind misted windows, where laughter is a currency too dear to spend. I also know the world beyond the quiet belt has begun to worry. Reports of roadside mirages, mass silences at county fairs, children drawing mouths too wide. They will need songs. They will need imperfect choirs. They will need mirrors to crack. I tighten my pack, feel the last powdered edge of Father Luis's mirror crumble in my pocket. Desert wind scatters it. Somewhere ahead, a new hum begins. Broken, defiant, human. I step toward it. The path behind closes with dust, and for a breath the hush is absolute, wide, watchful. I welcome it like an empty stage. And softly, with every failure I can muster, I begin to sing. My voice carries. Across the blacktop scar of forgotten highways, over skeletal fences, wrapped in sun-bleached caution tape, past rusted-out gas stations with pumps that bleed dust when touched. It carries into the hollows of sunburnt towns where old televisions play only snow, and into schools with no recess bells, just the hum of walls remembering how to echo. The song isn't beautiful. It catches, it falters, it drifts out of key like a bottle bobbing in a tide, but it survives. And in strange places, it is heard. In a desert motel whose sign no longer lights, a girl sits at the foot of her bed, legs swinging above cigarette-stained carpet. She listens. She doesn't smile, but her toes tap to the beat. She hums. A single, brave note that doesn't match the tune, but doesn't try to. And somewhere behind the fogged window above her sink, a grin curls in on itself and disappears, like breath drawn back into lungs that haven't exhaled in years. In a border town not far from Piedra Blanca, a boy walks home from school with a plastic recorder in his backpack. He pulls it out beneath the shadow of a bus shelter, smeared with greasy handprints. He blows one long, wheezy note, then another, shorter, sharper. Nearby, a woman waiting in silence glances up. Their eyes meet. She says nothing, but she nods once and taps her fingers against her knee off rhythm, just enough. They wait together. The bus never comes, but the silence doesn't linger. Not every place heals. There are towns still folded in fog, mouths too tired to open, but the shape of the world is changing, slow and careful. At the edge of the belt, people paint doors red. They say it keeps her away. Others leave cracked mirrors under their welcome mats, angled skyward so no grin can sneak through unseen. Superstitions, rituals, but between them, songs, taught by ear, never written down, pass like lanterns along the dark. I make it to the city after 3 weeks of walking. The first thing I see are billboards for smiles. Whitening strips, cosmetic implants, cheerful slogans peeling under sun. They look like wounds now, open mouths with no breath behind them. People here laugh in public, loud, bold, unaware. And I flinch at first, waiting for fog to seep from subway vents or bloom behind car windows. But it doesn't, not yet. They haven't seen her. They haven't heard the question, and for now, they don't need to, because she is listening again, watching, waiting, and what she hears now is noise. Unpredictable, chaotic, alive. I find a place above the city to live. A rooftop with broken furniture and a mattress that smells of old rain. From there, I can hear the music rise at night, sirens in harmony with dogs, late night parties, lullabies from open windows. The city hums, even in sorrow, even in pain, especially in pain. And I write it all down, each note, each laugh, each wrong beat. I keep the mirror shards near, not to look into, to scatter, to reflect noise, to disrupt rhythm, to remind the world that silence isn't safety. Sometimes I catch glimpses of her, in a reflection on an elevator door that stays closed just a little too long, in the flicker of a smile caught mid-glitch on a television screen at 3 a.m., in the breath on a cafe window that wasn't mine. But she never lingers. She only watches, as if waiting for a mistake. I sing to her when I feel her near. I hum the worst songs I know, half melodies from old cartoons, off-pitch verses from forgotten commercials, lullabies I invent while half asleep. She listens, and sometimes I think she hums back, quiet, unsure, as though learning. One night, as I walk home through an alley soaked in neon and trash steam, I pass a man laughing too hard at his phone. His voice cuts the dark, reckless, and bright. And just for a moment, I see her behind him, her shape rising in the condensation on a restaurant window. Her mouth opens, but she doesn't ask. She hesitates because the man still scrolling begins to whistle. Off key, broken, beautiful. She fades. I keep moving, not because I'm running, not anymore, but because I have songs to teach, bad jokes to tell, mirrors to break, and somewhere quiet where the fog clings low, she's still out there. Not hunting, not hiding, just learning. I dream of her sometimes, not in the way I used to, no teeth, no grin, just a shape at the edge of a field standing still under stars. She hums, she tries, she fails, she tries again. And that is enough. The world hums with her now, not because we are safe, but because we are awake. One day, the fog may return, may seep under doors, may fill our mouths with stillness, may ask the question again, do you want to be happy forever? And someone will answer, no, I want to sing, even if it breaks. The mirror is gone, the ledger burns slowly on a distant hill. May ask to be happy forever. The boy from Piedra Blanca hums somewhere I'll never find, but the sound endures. Every broken tune, every failed note, every laugh, jagged and real, it endures. And in the stillness, when the silence watches back, we will not smile, we will sing.